Well, here we are on the Pagan Day of Thursday, November 18th, the night before New Moon Day. And as you can see here, the moon is shining brightly once again and starting to rise as a beacon, as it states in YaHUaH chapter 5, verse 15. It's getting to its place on a lampstand so that all can see it that are in the house. And tonight is a very special evening. This moon will become a partial lunar eclipse. So stay tuned to this scriptural study video because it's going to explain why it's New Moon Day tomorrow at the dawn on the Pagan Day of Friday, November 19th. We're going to use all of the witnesses of light and with that method explain why the first day of Yom Teruah was indeed on the pagan day of Wednesday, October 20th. We will also share why a new moon with a partial eclipse proves why we can actually track the starting time period of a 100% fully illuminated new moon and its ending time period. So again, stay tuned and have a awesome new moon day on the pagan day of Friday, November 19th. Hallelujah, it's New Moon Day. Yes, the first day of the 8th month here on the pagan day of Friday, November 19th, 2021. In this scriptural and astronomical study, we will be going over 4 categories. Number 1, once again, we will be sharing all of the witnesses of light that determine New Moon Day. Number 2, proving this with 10 locations spread out all over Earth. Number 3, sharing how a blood red moon further verifies a true new moon day, because we can measure the illumination of a blood red moon, and in this case, it's a partial lunar eclipse that we have just witnessed. And finally, number 4, how this 8th month further verifies the past 7th month that occurred on the pagan day of Wednesday, October 20th. Yes, Yom Teruah, the first day of the 7th month. As we go through this study, and as always, please feel free to stop the video at any time to ensure that you can focus on the scriptural and astronomical information being shared. And please ensure that your computer monitors or mobile phones are set to full screen, because we will be focusing on the scriptural passages from Psalms chapter 8, verses 3-4. For I see your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars, which YaHUaH has established. The other scriptural passages we'll be focusing on today will be from the Psalms chapter 119, verse 148. My eyes have gone before the night watches to study your word. And of course, we as Bereans believe that YaHUaH's witnesses are indeed wonders. So this is why our being observes them all in all 4 watches, because we believe the opening up of YaHUaH's words does indeed give light and understanding to the simple. The main theme today was a request from many Bereans in Australia, Africa, Europe, the Middle East, North and South America, to explain this forecasting system in a more visual manner. So we are going to attempt that here today for the 8th month. And of course, using all 3 witnesses of light with the sun, moon, and stars from Scripture, with a predetermined focus on the scriptural stars that are clearly laid out and written in Scripture. And we will explain why in greater detail. And that detail exists in what is known as the star clock. We can read in Job chapter 38, verse 32, do you bring out the constellations in its season, or do you lead the bear with its sons? Yes, the bear in Scripture is known today as Ursa Major. And number 1, this star clock, Ursa Major, moves only 15 degrees per hour. This hour hand moves counterclockwise. Allow me to explain this. Number 2, it is based on an imaginary line straight up from the North Star, which is known as Polaris today. And this line will mark midnight, or the passing of 23 hours, 56 minutes, and 4.09 seconds, which is a true scriptural day, not the man-made, watered-down version of rounding off to 24 hours. Because in this approximate midnight view, yes, the second and third watch, if we went outside for the first day of the first month of Abib, we would see the clock, or Ursa Major, in this position. By summer in this position, by fall in this position. And as we know now, we're going into the 8th month, Ursa Major will be here, in this location, for a midnight view. And we'll explain this further. Because not only is Ursa Major an hourly clock, so to speak, it is also a seasonal clock. It also can be used for navigational purposes so that you don't get lost in creation. And finally, with this particular Mazzaroth, or constellation, in the zodiac, known as the Mazzaroth, it goes around the North Star in 23.934 hours per day. If you multiply that by a solar year of 365.25, it gives us 364 days annually, just like the book of Hanok, or Enoch, stated, and the book of Jubilees. We'll get more into this during this study. Yes, we do use all of the original 13 Mazzaroth, or constellations. Yes, there were 13. And if you understand how Ursa Major moves within that inner wheel around Polaris, then you will get a better understanding of how these Mazzaroth, or constellations, move in alignment with Ursa Major. We do not ignore all 13 Mazzaroth. Yes, believe it or not, there were originally 13 constellations. But regrettably, as we can read in the book of Romans chapter 1, verse 22 and 23, it states, claiming to be wise, they became fools and changed the esteem of the incorruptible, almighty Father of lights into the likeness of an image of corruptible man, and of birds, and of four-footed beasts, and of reptiles. Some say, well, what does this have to do with the Mazzaroth in the heavens? Again, it is easily proven through archaeology and the historical record that there were 13 original Mazzaroth, or constellations. Regrettably, we have 88 today. Yes, man has once again corrupted something that YaHUaH originally made perfect. So how do we know this is associated to Romans chapter 1, verses 22 through 23? Well, in these 88 constellations made by Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Rome, out of the 88, it is comprised of 42 animals, 29 inanimate objects, and 17 human mythological characters. Are we starting to understand now how man corrupts everything that the Father of Lights creates and provides to tell time? Yes, 42 animals, just like it says in the birds and the four-footed beasts and the reptiles. 29 inanimate objects and 17 human mythological characters. Yes, images of corruptible men. So this is very easy to prove both scripturally, etymologically, let alone astronomically, as backed up by the archaeological and historical record. Very basic. So this is why on this YouTube channel, we focus on the stars that are written in Scripture, because no one can deny them. It's non-debatable, so to speak. So we focus on these stars because we know they're in alignment with the rest of the original 13 Mazzaroth that we have spoken about and shared in past scriptural study videos. And before our YouTube channel, that started in 2013, we spoke about these 13 Mazzaroth in associate articles 10 years before that. So, this is why we always advise or suggest for folks to read about this, because in Psalms chapter 147, verse 4, YaHUaH appointed the number of the stars, and he gave names to them all. So if you want to learn about that, books like Francis J. Ralston, Mazzaroth, E.W. Bullinger, The Witness of the Stars, and finally a more modern version, Mystery of the Mazzaroth by Tim Warner. These will help you understand or be the starting point of why the Psalms in chapter 19, verses 1 through 2 state, "The heavens are proclaiming the esteem of the Almighty Father of lights, and the expanse is declaring the work of his hand. Day to day pours forth speech, and night to night reveals knowledge." So this is why we want everyone possible to be aware of what this is actually talking about as it relates to the issues that we had seen in the past with items from the 88 constellations. Again, 42 animals, 29 inanimate objects, and 17 human mythological characters today. Enough is enough. Let's stop other men and women from corrupting what we can actually read in Scripture and what these actual stars do in perfect alignment with the original 13 Mazzaroth in the 4 watches of a true scriptural nighttime period, if you will. So again, if interested, these books are helpful and or are the starting point, so to speak. We cover this in the workshops. If you are interested in these finite details, please reach out to us at family1@rogers.com, which is our home email address, because, as it says in the book of Psalms, chapter 136, verse 9, "The moon and stars do indeed rule by night." And this is key. The moon rolls the whole night through with a set of specific stars each and every month. So it's the whole night that we're watching the moon be associated with a set of specific stars for each and every new moon day, and it's repeatable from an annual basis or year after year. So as we go through this, we're going to start off now in category 1, and we're going to go through all of the witnesses of light that determine a new moon day. No, not just one event in one night watch, but all 4 watches with all of the witnesses of light with the sun, moon, and stars. So again, this forecast is numbers, and sometimes for folks, numbers are not as clear as visuals. So the request again for today was to take these numbers and make it more visual. So as an example, if we go out before 4 night watches to study the Word, and if we look towards the north, and let me explain this, you're actually lying down on the ground and looking up towards Polaris. So true north on this YouTube channel is the star or fixed star known as Polaris or the North Star, again, which Ursa Major goes around counterclockwise in 23 hours, 56 minutes, and 4.09 seconds. So in the first watch at sunset, sometimes the moon greets the sun at sunset, and sometimes it doesn't. So it's not an end-all due witness, and that's why we say don't use this as the one approach, but it's the starting period of the first watch. Why? Because we're watching for the moon. And again, sometimes it does greet the sun at sunset, and sometimes it doesn't. As we move forward, it is interesting to note that the book of YaHUaH, chapter 24, verse 27 states, "For as the lightning comes from the east," right here, "and shines to the west, so also shall the coming of the Son of Adam be." So we find that very interesting because this is how the sun, moon, and stars actually operate, in a counterclockwise fashion from east to west. We then find it extremely interesting from the book of Enoch, chapter 78, verses 12 through 13. It states, "On the first day she is called the new moon. For on that day the light rises upon her." As we can see here, a full moon. That light has risen upon a fully restored moon. "She becomes full moon on the day when the sun sets in the west." There it is right there. "And from the east she rises at night, the whole night through." The moon shines the whole night through, just like Psalms 136, verse 9 states, "The moon rules with the stars at night." Remember, a conjunction moon and a sliver moon does not rule the whole night through. Enoch knew this. Yes, Enoch knew this. Till the sun rises over against her, and the moon is seen over against the sun, which at daybreak or first light, the dawn, the sun will be over here and the moon will be over here. So keep that in mind as we go through it, because that's all the forecasts are showing. And if somebody is using a program out there, they're forecasting. Even though they tell you they don't forecast, if they use Stellarium or mooncalc.org, that's a forecasting program. Whether they use it just for that day or in advance or for years previous or for years into the future. It's a forecasting mechanism, and then they go outside and test and prove that forecast. So as we move forward, going into the second and third watch through the midnight time period, this is why Psalms state the moon and stars to rule by night, because only a full moon will rule the whole night through with the stars. Again, a conjunction or crescent doesn't do that. And that is why we firmly believe that YaHUaH and his kindness is everlasting. So the other neat passage that we have here is this. Is it coincidence that the Messiah Yahushua in chapter 5 verse 15 stated, "Nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it shines to all those in the house." So this is when the moon, the night before New Moon Day, and New Moon Day itself is the highest in the Shamaim for all in the house to see. So this is why we believe the second and third watch is so important, because it's that beacon. It tells you when New Moon Day is going to be. Remember, a conjunction or a crescent, on the 15th day, the conjunction moon is way, way below the horizon. So it's obviously not referring to Matthew chapter 5, verse 15, let alone a crescent moon. And by the dawn, as you can see, it's still high in the Shamaim for all to see at first light. And the real important thing here, this is a true scriptural day start. And finally, you still can see the sun, dawn at first light, and the scriptural stars, including the other Mazzaroth, the 13 Mazzaroth, if you will. So make a long story short, this is a very important time period in a scriptural day, especially when it comes to determining New Moon Day. Let's go further. And then by moonset, the last watch, at sunrise, is the final and fourth watch, or the completion of it, which we call sunrise end, or the fourth watch ending period. So the dawn is the starting of the fourth watch. The sunrise ends it. Now, many people just use this right here, a portion of the fourth watch, to determine New Moon Day. And as good as this witness is, it doesn't work for everyone all over Earth every month. Approximately 2 to 3 times a year, it doesn't do this for everyone on the same day. So we'll get into that as well. So everything I just went through is what these numbers actually share. And this exists because YaHUaH provides light, and from an empirical scientific standpoint, we can measure the light and thus number our days. Again, in science, darkness cannot be measured. There's no levels of darkness, it's just dark. It's the absence of light. So we'll get into more of that as we go through the study. So we measure everything in all 4 watches because, why? Our eyes go before the 4 watches, and we believe the witnesses from YaHUaH are indeed wonders. So this is why we observe them, and not just one portion of all of the 4 watches. So this is how we're going to go through this right now. We're going to go through all of those categories, thus accomplishing in 10 locations why it's so consistent and why we can indeed determine New Moon Day for the same day for everyone on Earth, and thus why we firmly believe that the Pagan Day of Friday, November 19th, is the first day of the 8th month. So we're going to look at these locations, yes, these 10 locations, and as we go through all of the 4 watches with all of the witnesses of light, we're going to explore if the moon greets the sun at sunset for those locations. We're going to explore if chapter 78 from Enoch is actually true. And then we're going to go find out if the moon rules the whole night with an annual set of scriptural stars, just as the psalmist said in chapter 136, verse 9. And then we're going to test and prove if it's true that the night before New Moon Day and New Moon Day, the moon is the highest, at the highest illumination in the Shamayim, based on Matthew chapter 5, verse 15. And then the dawns start with a set of fixed stars as the sun is providing the dawn or first light. And obviously the moon is still high in the Shamayim for all to see. And yes, we are, as always, at the end of the fourth watch, we are going to explore if the moon does indeed greet the sun at sunrise for this first day of the 8th month. And finally, we're going to look at the steadfast witnesses that we can read of in Psalms chapter 89, verse 37. Does the moon provide the same amount and time of 100% full illumination? Now, I know a lot of people question this, but a partial lunar eclipse and a full lunar eclipse, a blood red moon, proves that this indeed does exist, and we'll get into that. And finally, we're going to explore the moonrise position and the moon set position, if that happens for everyone in the same location for this particular 8th month. And we're going to find out if that's a witness that can unite us. Rather than looking for witnesses that divide us, why not use all of the witnesses of light to see what unites us? Remember, men try to believe incorrectly that they have the power to unite everyone. I and the ones on this YouTube channel do not believe we have that capability here and now in the age of man. But we do believe that the Father of Lights, if we use all of his witnesses, can unite us to the proper new moon days each month, the proper feast days annually, let alone work days. So we're now going to go see for the 8th month if the moon did greet the sun at sunset. We're going to go check that out in great detail. So here we are on the Excel spreadsheet, highlighting for the total countries and locations within them if the moon greets the sun at sunset. So again, I use more than one program, 3 witnesses to establish a matter. I use QuickPhase Pro version 4.1.10, and I match it up with both MoonCalc and a WLC program for the movements and position of the moon. And as well, for the sunset time, I use timeanddate.com too. And this ensures that all of the programs are working together. There's no discrepancy, so that when I do go outside and test and prove, I know where to look, when to look, and I save time. So again, the moon did greet the sun at sunset in my area. It did in Jerusalem. It did in Perth, Australia, Anaheim, California, but did not in Hawaii, USA. And this is why this one witness, as good as it is, does not work every month for everyone on earth. And why it's not the end-all do-witness approach. It's only one piece of the first watch. So we let people know you've got to use more than one witness to determine New Moon Day. And this alone does not do it every month. Dallas, Texas, we have a green light. The moon did greet the sun at sunset. Rio de Janeiro, green light. Cape Town, South Africa. Berlin, Germany, yes. And Mumbai, India. So 1 out of the total 10 location sample did not greet the sun at sunset. And as you can see, we're back to the summary for the column called Moon Greets the Sun at Sunset. And as we just seen on the Excel spreadsheet, 9 out of 10 countries, or 90% of them, did have the moon greet the sun at sunset. As good as this one witness is at the start of the first watch, doesn't work 2 to 3 times a year. And folks that just rely on this one witness in one portion of the first watch obviously is not the scriptural approach of 3 witnesses to establish a matter, in this case the first day of the 8th month, New Moon Day. So why don't we now go to the next witness from Psalm 136:9, how the moon rules the night with an annual set of scriptural stars. So in the 8th month, what does the moon rule with the whole night through that we can rely on to know what month we're in? And as Job said, what season? So let's go find that out, because 10 of the 10 countries or locations all had the same pattern. Now let's go explore that. So here we are in the program called Stellarium that monitors the sun, moon, and stars. And the moonrise on the pagan day of Thursday, the 18th of November, while the moon was rising, it was in proximity to the seven sisters known as Pleiades in Scripture. And notice the middle star name out of the seven stars. It means the central one, Almighty One. So this is what happens the whole night through for a first day, 8th month, everywhere on Earth. And Ursa Major is in its proper position, announcing that as well. Remember, Ursa Major is aligned to the rest of the Mazzaroth. So in this case, the Almighty One, the center star of seven, known as Seven Sisters, is the announcement of the first day of the 8th month. And let's check this out. Let's go by hour and notice how the moon rules the whole night through with the seven sisters, or what is known as Pleiades. So again, very basic, and this is the alignment or the celestial sign on the clock and calendar of YaHUaH for a first day, 8th month. And everyone will see this star. They may not see Ursa Major, but even in Australia, the moon will rule with the seven sisters, now known today as Pleiades. So yes, right from the first watch, the moon was ruling with the seven star cluster known as Pleiades, or anciently as Kima. And it ruled the whole night through, right through the midnight time period. Yes, when the moon, the full moon, and in this case a partial lunar eclipse, it ruled the whole night through with the seven sisters known as Kima or Pleiades. And it went all the way past the dawn, all the way to the sunrise time period for some locations on Earth. So now, that is a 100% fully verified, out of these 10 countries, witness that unites us all, in this case for this particular month. So let's go now to the light on a lampstand. At the midnight time period, the moon, the night before New Moon Day, is at its highest point, and the night of New Moon Day, and that's the midnight time period. So these two witnesses are joined to the hip, so to speak, when you're looking at the moon ruling through the whole night through, because it's a light on a lampstand. So this as well worldwide happened for all of these locations. Another witness that unites us, rather than taking a one witness approach with the moon greeting the sun at sunset, or the moon greeting the sun at sunrise. So let's look into this a little further, because there's some really neat programs over and above the scriptural passages. Again, the moon is a beacon. It's a light on a lampstand, and it shines to all those in the house that are looking for it. And many don't. It is what it is, right? So when we look at this, here's the moon, the 30th day of the 7th month, which we just seen on Stellarium, ruling with Pleiades. There it is right there, or Kima. And the center star is the Almighty One, or central one. And here's the moon right here. Stellarium provides graphs, a very nice system. And as you can see, the moon rises to its highest point. The green line here is a man-made line known as the Meridian. And that line is aligned to the North Star. We do not suggest using this line, and we'll explain why. But again, as you can see it's at its highest point. For everyone on Earth, for all those in the house that want to see this and observe this or shamar this, because it's a wonderful witness, and our being observes it. So that is an option for you if you so desire, and you can find it under the graph section on Stellarium. Let's go to something else. Again, A little wake-up call for Meridian Lines, let alone the International Date Line, let alone the Horizon Lines. These are all man-made lines, and you can't see them in creation, and we'll explain why in a second. But as it relates to the Meridian Line, it is a geographical reference line that passes through the Royal Observatory in Greenwich in London, England. It was first established by Sir George Airy in 1851. So there are more than one meridian line. The one on Stellarium uses what they call true north, that passes through the North Star, fixed star known today as Polaris. This is very important because there's more than one line. So when you go outside and you say someone a meridian line, there could be more than one. So we'll speak more about this in a second. But the takeaway here is, as you can see, the moon is at the 180 degree mark. And that is right above Polaris. And it's 63 degrees above the horizon, the highest point on any given day in this particular month, coming in from the 7th month into the first day of the 8th month. And the moon, in this case, for this particular month, 100% illuminated. So the highest illumination and the highest point in the sky, the night before New Moon Day. And by the dawn, it would become New Moon Day. So, something else you should know. If you went 15 days later from the first day of the 8th month, you'd come to the 15th day of the 8th month, which is the second Sabbath of the 8th month, which will be this year on the pagan day of the 3rd of the pagan month of December. And look what HalaluYAH said about a 15th day in chapter 78, verse 8. And all her remaining light disappears wholly on the 15th day, talking about the moon. Notice the moon is now in proximity to the sun. Again, solar eclipses are caused by this phenomena. So when we had the solar eclipse for the death and murder on the stake of the Messiah YaHUaH, this was the time period. The 14th and 15th day can produce a solar eclipse. Last night was a lunar eclipse because the moon was above. But 15 days later, the moon goes away. It wholly disappears. And it disappears because it was below the horizon at 68 degrees. Isn't that cool? The opposite of what it was on the first day of the first month, the 8th month. And notice the illumination, 0. So yes, HalaluYAH knew exactly what a 15th day was. It was a conjunction moon event. So again, let's keep going on here to see a little bit more. 0% illuminated, lowest point in the Shamayim for the month. This is the 15th day, or the second Sabbath. So here, let's go a little farther here and check out this program, because I've overlaid this on top of the Stellarium program, and it's showing the very same thing. The nice thing about this program, dailymoonposition.com, is that it also gives you the same graph features, showing you the moon to be at its highest point. So here again, here we are the night before New Moon Day. It's the midnight time period, and it's showing the same thing. The nice thing about this program as well, it gives you an Excel spreadsheet giving you all that information from the hour of the day. Here's the midnight. There's 11 o'clock. Here's midnight and after 1 a.m. And it shows you the actual altitude. It gives you another feature of the altitude without refraction and the azimuth towards true north. Again, above the North Star is 180 degrees. This is how they, on these programs, measure that. And then you've got your azimuth or compass. And here is where the meridian line doesn't serve, because there's two types of true north. And we'll get into that in a minute. There's true north and then magnetic north. And there's the percent illumination at 100%. So all of the programs, let alone our human eyes, as we seen last night, it was a 100% fully restored moon, and it was a partial lunar eclipse. Again, this is a clock. And with Ursa Major, it's a star clock that goes around the North Star in 23 hours, 56 minutes, and 4.09 seconds. This is an excellent gift from our Father of Lights. It's both a seasonal clock, hourly clock, and navigational clock, which is fully aligned to all of the Mazzaroth, all of the constellations in the original 13. If you're looking at the 88, this won't matter. That is why the Babylonians, the Persians, the Greeks, and the Romans did that, is to eliminate this from your view. So here we are back to the Excel spreadsheet, and as you can see, as shared, this is the Excel spreadsheet showing midnight degrees to the horizon. This column right here, we're going to go down right now and explore this. So in my hometown, the moon, the night before New Moon Day and the night of New Moon Day, just before midnight, 23 hours and 59 minutes to be exact, before the date changed in the pagan Gregorian view, you can see the moon being at its highest position above the Shamayim, or the horizon, if you will. And it was the same in Jerusalem. It was the same in Perth, Australia. Same scenario in Anaheim, California, Hawaii, USA, Dallas, Texas. And notice, the day after New Moon Day, it drops significantly. Again, this witness is very reliable, and that's why we use it. Our being observes the wonders of YaHUaH's 4 watches. Here we are in Rio de Janeiro, same deal. The next day after New Moon Day, boom, right down. Cape Town, South Africa, take a look. The next day after New Moon Day, boom, right down. Again, New Moon Day, there's no doubt. It's the Pagan Day, Friday, November 19th, and it commenced at the dawn. If we went to Berlin, Germany, same scenario. And Mumbai, India, yes, our Berean study buddy, YaHUaH, same scenario for you. So at the end of the day, Sudeep, same for you. Thanks to all the Bereans in India. You're so helpful. Your forecasts, your photographs and pictures are more than welcomed. So this is why we're comfortable as well with this additional witness that New Moon Day is today, the pagan day of Friday, November 19th. So now let's take a look at the 7th month. Yes, Yom Teruah. And let's take a look at the night before the first day of the 7th month and the day of the 7th month, the first day, which was the pagan day of Wednesday, October 20th, based on this witness, the midnight to degrees. So take a look at my hometown. Yeah, the night before New Moon Day, the highest, and boom. Then you get into Jerusalem, same scenario. The highest before, the night before New Moon Day itself. Take a look at Jerusalem here with the second witness that we were tracking. Again, we don't do just one program. We use more than one. Perth, Australia, same deal. 54 degrees above the horizon on the pagan day of Tuesday, October 19th. And then New Moon Day, again, at the midnight time period, 23:59 to be exact, 49.40. And then the next day, the day after New Moon Day, Thursday, October 21st, boom, it drops like crazy. Look at Hawaii, USA, 74.7, 73.5. Boom, it drops the next day. October 21st was not New Moon Day. Take a look at Anaheim, USA, same scenario. And then the day after New Moon Day, boom, it drops. Remember, it's a beacon. It's a light on a lampstand. If you're looking at the following day after New Moon Day, the moon's waning. It's no longer at its highest illumination, and it's no longer at its highest point in the Shamayim. This is an excellent witness because that's what the scriptures state, and that's how YaHUaH designed it. Dallas, Texas, same thing, 58, 57, boom, drops down 52.8. Rio de Janeiro, same scenario. Cape Town, South Africa, same scenario. Singapore, Asia, same scenario. Mumbai, India, same scenario. Again, this was for the first day of the 7th month. This is why some people were challenged with this, because they weren't looking at all the witnesses. Mexico City, same thing. Nairobi, Africa, same thing. If you're just looking for the moon to greet the sunrise, you're going to miss all of these wondrous and wonderful witnesses that YaHUaH provides. Again, this is why our being observes them. So let's take a look at this same witness, but with stellarium. And let's add in the man-made Meridian Line, which is very dangerous, and we'll explain now why. let alone the horizontal line, why this is dangerous as well to use on stellarium. So, anyways, as you can see, here we are on the 28th day of the 7th month, which was the Pagan Day of November, and the 16th day of November. The moon's 49 degrees above the horizon at 95.6% illuminated. Ursa Major is in its proper position, and as you can see, stellarium uses the North Star. The challenge is if you're directly under the North Star, then this could be relevant. But if you're to the northwest or to the northeast, it's very hard to pinpoint from an angle that you're truly at that 180 degree mark, as stellarium puts it. Now, on a regular compass, the top would be 360. So what stellarium is doing, even though I've got this at a north view, stellarium uses the south view, which is problematic at best. So this is why you have to watch these programs. Going to the next day, and just before we do that, the other thing about true north is, and people say, well, if you had a compass, you could figure this out. Well, you can't. A compass will give you two readings, a north reading and then a magnetic north reading. And you have to understand how to use a compass in order to understand this outside in creation. So if you're just on stellarium and you have no experience in the backcountry using these tools, you'll be in trouble navigating, let alone telling time. Let's now go to the 29th day of the 7th month, which was on the Pagan Day of November 17th. Now the moon is 57 degrees higher. It's climbing like it does every month. It's a beacon. It's going to let you know the night before New Moon Day at its highest point and New Moon Day, so you don't miss it. And its illumination grows as well, 98.7. And we'll explain why this is so easy and so 1,000,000% true that anyone can measure this. And we'll explain that in a second. So let's go to the next day. Now here we are on the 30th day, the night before New Moon Day. And it's the Pagan Day of November 18th. And make a long story short, what we get here is the moon now is at its highest level, and it's at 100%. This was a partial lunar eclipse. And notice it's towards that line. The challenge is if you go outside, a compass won't show you that. You have to do the measurement for the declination of 10 degrees. And if you're directly underneath the North Star perfectly at the 180 mark, then maybe this will work. But if you live a little bit more to the northwest or to the northeast, it's problematic at best. And something else shows up because stellarium doesn't always match to what you will see outside. Again, it's a man-made line. They just put it in here. It's like the horizon line. If you're higher than the horizon line, you could see more. If you're lower, you'll see less. This is based on the longitude and latitude that stellarium decided to put in. You could live at another location on a mountain and see more. So these lines are very dangerous, like the international date line. It has nothing to do with YaHUaH's clock. So this is the night before New Moon Day, as we seen last night. And I don't live directly at the 180 degree mark from a stellarium viewpoint. So this is why we always share that with people. Be careful on how you use these tools. So again, YaHUaH, chapter 5, verse 15, nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it shines to all those in the house. So everyone in the world at its specific location will be the highest the night before New Moon Day and New Moon Day itself. The following day it drops like a stone because it's not a beacon anymore. So again, we cover this outside in creation in our workshops. We get away from the computers. We show how a compass actually works in relation to stellarium and other programs. And more importantly, how to use it so you don't get lost. And again, when you're in creation and you have no devices, computer devices, cell phones, you better know what you're doing or you're not going to make it home. So we actually take people out in kayaks and canoes. We sleep in tents, and there is no light pollution, and all of this comes together quite nicely. So here you go. Here is the first day of the 8th month. The moon is still high above. Ursa Major in its proper position. There's Polaris. And now it's starting to get ready to come down in a big way, along with the waning of the moon, the percent effective or illumination of the moon, will start to decline as well. So this is the second day of the 8th month. And you can track this every day like we do. The programs are very, very good, and they'll tell you exactly. So again, the night before New Moon Day at its highest point, you've got graphs from Stellarium. You can really, really use these to your advantage, but be careful of the man-made lines. They're just that. They're man-made. And usually in the late 1800s, early 1900s, they became to be used quite often. Again, dailymoonposition.com gives you the same information and so forth. Remember, last night, if you were out on the lake with us or in a tent, you would have seen, if you were directly under the North Star at the 180 degree mark, this would make sense to you. If you were over here on the northwest or over here in the northeast, it'd be hard to determine because you can't see this man-made line. And you have to take into consideration the 10 degrees declination on a compass. So if you've never done this before, don't worry about it. It is easy to learn. It's just another factor in regards to understanding programs and then how to utilize them outside in reality. Program's one thing, but once you get outside, it's a whole different ballgame. So again, very useful, and all because of the center circle of Ezekiel's wheel. Center wheel. And the outer wheel is the 13 Mazzaroth, and then outside of that is something else, and we plan to do studies on that in the future. Let's take a look at the 7th month. So here's the 27th day of the 6th month, heading up to the first day of the 7th month, yes, Yom Teruah, which was on October 17th, that pagan time period. The moon was 190 degrees to true north, 93.9% illuminated, and 39 degrees above or high in the Shamayim. By the 28th day of the 6th month, which was the pagan day of October 18th, the moon climbed to 45 degrees in height, and was 97.8%. It's now waxing, becoming fully restored, and now at the 177 degree to true north mark in regards to what Stellarium calls true north. Now on the 29th day was Tuesday, October 19th, the night before New Moon Day. Yes. Now take a look at this. It's saying 161 degrees to true north. Look where the meridian line is on Stellarium. It should be over on the other side of the moon, but it isn't, because Stellarium is a man-made line. It's not accurate. So if you're relying on these lines to determine anything with the celestial clock and calendar of YaHUaH, it's problematic at best. So it's incorrect. So this moon would be closer to this section right here and beyond. So be very careful, please. And you can learn this in the workshops that we offer, how to use all this. Here we are in the first day of the 7th month, 50 degrees above, 143 now. And boom, the second day, complete drop. And the illumination of the moon is definitely waning. It's no longer a fully restored moon. So this is why we were comfortable that the pagan day of Wednesday, October 20th, was indeed Yom Teruah, the first day of the 7th month. And we track this year after year. So here's 2021, just like it was in other time periods. And here's Yom Teruah. And this particular time period is right now for the 8th month. So again, when you go outside in all 4 night watches, these things come clear, and this is why the 8th month further proves with those witnesses why the 7th month was what it was. But again, if you don't use those witnesses, you'll think something else. It's just automatic. So please take the time to stop the video now and take a look at this slide. Because if you determine New Moon Day to be for the first day of the 8th month, to be on the pagan day of November 19th, then you can't discount the same witnesses that proved that Yom Teruah, the first day of the 7th month, was indeed on the pagan day of Wednesday, October 20th. You can't discount it one month and then apply it the next month. So the consistency of these witnesses are huge. And then we come to, again, we put this light, yes, the full moon, the restored moon, on a lampstand, and it shines to all those in the house. So this is why the witnesses of the second and third watch are so important, and why we can now safely say that this light on a lampstand can be used as a witness to unite everyone on earth, and as well ties into the witness towards the dawn, because, as we said, as first light's coming up, the sun is showing its first light, and the moon is greeting that sun. It's over and above it, like YaHUaH stated, as we can see in the passage above. And all the stars are there as well, and there's a fixed pattern for the first day of an 8th month. So should that be aligned? Can we test and prove that as well? Again, the worksheet said yes, so let's go see the evidence. Again, the first watch starts at sunset. That's the start, because the moon possibly may greet the sun, and we are observers of the moon. So the first watch is indeed starting point at sunset, into the second and third watch, which passes through midnight. And now we're going to explore what's called the fourth watch, or the start of it. A scriptural true day start is dawn, first light. So we're going to explore that now, because most of us, Bereans, rise before the dawn and cry for help. We wait for the word of YaHUaH. We go look at those celestial signs for each and every given month, because our eyes go out before all night watches to study the word. It's a very interesting scriptural passage view here. So what does it actually look like on Stellarium? So as you can see, in Abib, we went out towards the dawn, and then 6 months later, this is the celestial sign. We've shared that in countless scriptural study videos. So this is definitely a sign. The moon is still above, high in the house for all to see in the house, and Ursa Major and its two suns are in its proper position with the North Star, and the morning star is in its proper position. Take a look at that, because 6 months later, it's opposite. So now Ursa Major is on this side with the two suns, and all of a sudden now we get Orion, Pleiades, and the star Hamal. Remember, in a first month, the moon rules with the star known as Spica. In the 7th month, it rules with the star known as Hamal. And in the 8th month, the moon then rules with Pleiades. This is a pattern that can be trusted year after year. Let's go a little farther, because if you take a look at this, for 2020, it was the same thing. First month to the 7th month. And in 2019, first month to the 7th month. And that's why even then, when the moon ruled with the star known as Hamal in the 7th month, first day, the 8th month it goes to Pleiades. You start to understand how the Mazzaroth actually work. So we've certainly have proven that here in regards to the fourth watch, but is there any more evidence for a fixed pattern? Well, let's take a look at that fixed pattern. So let's go back, because we're saying that that pattern exists for everybody all over Earth. So let's check Stellarium one more time to see what that looks like. So again, here we are at the dawn on New Moon Day, which is Friday, Pagan Day of November 19th, and here we are at the dawn. And there's the moon ruling with Pleiades right here, anciently known as Kima, and some folks are very well aware of why it's called the Seven Sisters. So here we are. That's the sign, while Ursa Major is in its proper position, and yes, the rest of the Mazzaroth, including all of those other Mazzaroth, such as Leo the Lion, etc., in its proper position. Again, the inner wheel is always aligned with the outer Mazzaroth. The inner wheel with the outer wheel. So again, very easy to prove. Now this is 2021. If you go back to previous years, will you see the same thing? You betcha. Here we are in 2019 for the first day of the 8th month. And look at the moon again. It's ruling with Pleiades. These aren't coincidences. You can go back as far as you want, and you can forecast ahead as far as you want. This always happens. So this is why we trust it. And this is why our being observes all of these witnesses right up to the dawn. And as we can see, the moon ruled with Pleiades right from moonrise, and it's going to go all the way to sunrise. And as we showed on the previous slides. So here's that comparison. Stop the video now. Take a look at it. Take the time to breathe it all in, because the moon and stars do indeed rule by night. Because YaHUaH, our Father of lights, and his kindness is indeed everlasting. So again, this is the value of all 4 watches. 3 witnesses to establish a matter. So that takes care of the dawn time period, just like the book of Enoch, chapter 78, verse 13, talked about. So very easy to prove, very easy to observe in creation. Now let's talk about the witness of the moon greeting the sun at sunrise. And it's a fabulous witness. But again, 2 to 3 times a year, it doesn't work for everyone on Earth on that same day. So as an example, here in Barrie, it certainly met the sun at sunrise this morning at the end of the 4th watch. It didn't do it in Jerusalem, Perth, Australia. It did it in Anaheim, Hawaii, Dallas. It didn't do it in Rio de Janeiro. And if you really want to know in Rio, it's not going to do it tomorrow either. So it's actually going to peek its head up on the Pagan Day of Sunday. So this is another thing people need to realize about this one particular witness. It's very much like the moon greeting the sun at sunset. Great witness, but it doesn't combine everybody to the same day every month. 2 to 3 times a year just doesn't work. Just like the moon greeting the sun at sunrise. So in this sample for this year, for the 8th month, 4 to 10 cities the moon did greet the sun at sunrise. 40% effective. So here we are again on the Excel spreadsheet that we track everything. So let's take a look at this column. And as you can see, we track if the moon greets the sun at the dawn, and we actually track if the moon greets the sun at sunrise. We do both. And we actually provide the dawn percent illumination at that time period, let alone the sunrise with the moon percent illumination. And again, we're going to explain that the illumination is a real number and that it has a starting point and an end point. Anybody telling you that it only happens for a second has not yet tested and proved this out for themselves just yet. And that's okay. There's always time. So let's take a look at this a little closer. So in my area, the moon did greet the sun at sunrise this morning. And it greeted at about 1.5 degrees above the horizon at 100% illuminated. And it certainly greeted the sun at the dawn, high in the Shamayim, so all in the house could see it at 100% illumination. Take a look at Jerusalem, Israel. It greeted the sun at the dawn at 14 degrees above the horizon and was 99% illuminated right there. And then by the sunrise, it was 100% illuminated, and it didn't greet the sun at the sunrise. But it's still New Moon Day. How can that be? So let's take a look at this again. Perth, Australia. Highest percent illumination and 15 approximately degrees above the horizon, and did greet the sun at the dawn, but not at the sunrise. The next day, it starts to wane. Here we are in Anaheim, California. 100% at the dawn, 19 degrees above the horizon. It greeted it. It did the same thing at 100% illuminated and well above the horizon at sunrise. What's going on here? Then take a look at Hawaii. Highest percent illumination, greets the sun at the dawn and also at sunrise. The following day, it starts to wane. So definitely Friday, November 19th is New Moon Day. Look at Dallas, Texas. 100% illuminated at the dawn at 18 degrees above the horizon. 100% illuminated at the sunrise and almost 2 degrees above the horizon. Let's really talk about this a little further. Look at Rio. It's 100 degrees on the 19th. 100% illumination at the dawn, 5 degrees above the horizon, 100% at the sunrise illuminated, but minus 12. What's going on? And then it's minus 3.61 on the 20th November. It doesn't even greet the sun the following day. It greets the sun 2 days later than everybody else. So there's some people out there saying, regrettably, and it's erroneous obviously, but they're saying, well, you can have new moon days on different days. So I'm going to have my new moon day on November 19th, so to speak. And then some people are going to have it on November 20th. Well, it doesn't work like that for Rio, as you can see, because it's only going to greet the sun on the 21st, 2 days after. So does that mean there are 3 different days new moon day can be on? Come on, people. At the end of the day, if you're going to test and prove, get in the game. Understand and learn the wonders of YaHUaH. Our being observes them. So thank you to all those folks in South America that share this one particular witness. Again, it's a great witness, but 2 to 3 times a year, it doesn't do it. It's not the one witness only thing that does it for everybody on earth. Take a look at Cape Town, South Africa. It greets the sun, fully restored moon, 16 degrees above at the dawn, 100% illuminated, and just off the horizon based on mooncalc.org and some other programs. But again, if you're above that horizon line for that program on a mountain, you will be able to see that 100% fully restored moon greet the sun at sunrise. That's how this works. The same in Germany. It's 100% illuminated, and on Stellarium it shows minus 0.47. If you're on a mountain somewhere, you will see it greet the sun at sunrise, because it certainly greets at 100% illumination at the dawn. This is why the dawn is the start of the day. And here's the other point. At the sunrise, you lose the stars. They drown out, the light of the sun drowns out the light of the stars. So you miss that other great witness, all 3 witnesses at the start of the 4th watch. And finally, Mumbai, India. 99.9 at the dawn. Hello, it's new moon day. 99.9 at minus 3 degrees, but it starts to wane the following day, and then it greets the sun at sunrise, but the moon is already waning, and it's dropped. It's no longer a beacon. That's why this witness with the moon greeting the sun at sunrise is not the end-all, do-all witness. Again, Scripture is clear, 3 witnesses to establish a matter. But some people say, forget about that. Just focus on this one witness at the end of the 4th watch, a portion of the 4th watch only, which is incredibly rude from a scriptural standpoint, because Scripture doesn't operate in that manner, nor do the heavens. So I hope you enjoy this type of data, let alone explained from a visual standpoint. Because when you look at the witness at the end of the 4th watch, again, not an entire 4th watch, just at the end of the 4th watch, so a portion when the moon greets the sunrise, as you can see here for the 8th month, only 4 to 10 countries or locations in those countries actually greeted the sun at sunrise. So why is this witness only 2 to 3 times a year not effective? Well, we think it's because of this visual view. The Babylonian calendar was a lunisolar calendar. Again, it wasn't based on the stars as you had seen in these witnesses today. It consisted of 12 lunar months, each beginning when a new crescent moon was first sighted low. So remember, it's not the light on a lampstand so that all can see it in the house. This is low. It has you looking at the horizon, if you will. And this system, this Babylonian system in astronomy, is known as syzygy. And the system is known further as opposition. It's a term which is often applied when the sun and moon are in conjunction, new moon, or in opposition. And regrettably, this whole idea, from positional astronomy anyways, that state that 2 astronomical objects are said to be in opposition when they are on opposite sides of the celestial sphere and are observed from a given body, usually Earth. So again, you're at the horizon. You're not looking up. You're not looking at the dawn. You're not looking at all those other witnesses in the 2nd and 3rd watch. It's basically a horizontal view, if you will. which has seeped in to even full moon believers, regrettably. So it's a great witness from a full moon, but again, it doesn't serve us and everyone on Earth about 2 to 3 times a year. So again, something to think about. And as we can see, with this view, any inclement weather, it gets a little difficult. Any mountainous terrain, difficult again. And even just from a vegetation standpoint, it can cause some severe problems when the moon is right at the horizon, if you're doing this, and are just a little bit below or even 1 degree above. It's problematic at best, and that's why the dawn and the midnight witnesses are so advantageous, let alone if someone lives in a lot of light pollution, along with a lot of high skyscrapers, if you will. So again, this is why the midnight towards the dawn view and the view of the moon ruling the whole night through with the stars and those specific scriptural stars are so valuable. Again, we put a light on a lamp and not under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it shines to all those in the house. So, and this is why we are very comfortable with HalaluYAH chapter 78, verses 12 through 13, because it's the only moon phase, going from east to west, that proves that the moon does indeed rule by night with the stars. And it shows this kindness from YaHUaH, our Father of Lights. Again, at the mouth of 2 witnesses or at the mouth of 3 witnesses, a matter is established. And we believe that if you use all the witnesses of lights, it unites. And this is why we say YaHUaH unites, and why we don't believe that a man or a woman can unite people. We don't have that capability. Hasn't there been enough human history to prove that matter? So if you take away from any of these witnesses, like world religions do, this is why we say the world hides and divides. It's because it adds and takes away from all of the witnesses of light in the 4 night watches. So when you use all of the witnesses of light, things get much easier. Yeah, it's a lot more work, but this is why some people say forget about it. We're just going to reduce this and simplify this. Take a look at a true scriptural day, 23 hours, 56 minutes, and 4.09 seconds. What does mankind do? They round it off. What does mankind do with all these witnesses? They round it off at the end of the 4th watch, a small portion of the 4th watch. But we have 2 more things to take a look at. And again, based on a mouth of 2 or the mouth of 3 witnesses, a matter is established in these 4 night watches, because we're going to look at why these witnesses are wonders and why our being will continue to observe them, regardless if anybody wants to be negative of taking away witnesses. We're not going to get depressed about that. We expect the world and those still associated to it to tell us not to look at all the witnesses. That is a huge sign for us of going in the wrong direction, and we want nothing to do with it, obviously. So again, great witness, the moon greeting at sunrise, but 2 to 3 times a year, as you can see, including this 8th month. It's problematic at best. So, we've gone over all of the witnesses of light that determine a new moon day. And we've also proved this with 10 locations spread out all over Earth. Now we're going to get into how does a blood red moon, whether it's a partial lunar eclipse or a full lunar eclipse, help to verify the true new moon day. We're going to talk about that with what we call the steadfast witnesses of the moon from Psalms chapter 89, verse 37. So we're going to look now at 2 things. We're going to look at why the moon does produce something very consistent. So in the 8th month here, the first day of the 8th month, the moon produces 11 hours and 16 minutes of 100% illumination for all these countries and these locations in those countries. So we're going to look at that now and prove how a blood red moon, whether it's partial or a full lunar eclipse, proves that. And then we're actually going to show that even further from the steadfast witness of moon rises all the way to moon sets in the same direction in degrees everywhere on Earth. Because these 2 additional witnesses, all of these locations in all of these countries experienced 100% compatibility. So let's take a look at that witness now if we can, and go into great detail with that in those 10 countries as it relates to both a partial lunar eclipse, and this lunar eclipse last night was very special, and it's one of the longest lunar eclipses that we've experienced from way back when, hundreds of years. So please read up on that. This is a very special lunar eclipse, even though it's partial. So as you can see, back to the Excel spreadsheet for the night before New Moon Day and the first day of the 8th month. And on this worksheet, in these columns, we track when the moon becomes 100% full, right here in this column, and when the moon becomes or finishes being 100% full, and the total hours. Now you'll notice in every country and those locations, the moon provided 11 hours and 16 minutes of fully illuminated restored light. Now some people don't believe this. So we're going to share how these countries with a partial lunar eclipse proves that you can actually track a starting point of 100% full illumination and an ending point. So bear with me on that one. And then we're also going to track at the same time why the moonrise, the night before New Moon Day, and to the moon set of New Moon Day is critical as well, and why everybody's aligned with that witness on Earth, everywhere. So as you can see, there's consistency, and it's right down to the degree, and we'll explain how that works. So all of these visuals and these worksheets are available to anyone watching these videos if you email us at family1@rogers.com. And in fact, we will request that you fill them out for your locations. And this is how our forecasts are growing. And this is why we're learning so much exponentially at such a quick rate, because we're not just relying on what we think or what we see. We're partnering up with other Bereans all over Earth. And the process is just amazing. You'll learn much more in a quicker period of time, and you start to see what the sun, moon, and stars do to unite us. And you start to see why people only use a portion in a very small window of one watch. And it's surprising that people do that. And after a while, this looks like a lot of work, but it's not after a while when everybody's doing it, because you're sharing the information. Think of it as a spiritual offering of light if you're interested in things like this. So again, we're going to look at the percent illumination and its total time, and prove that you can do this based on a partial or full lunar eclipse, blood red moon. And we're going to look at the moon rise the night before New Moon Day, all the way to the moon set time period of New Moon Day, and what that information shares with us, because these witnesses unite us all over Earth. So for this exercise on these two steadfast witnesses, we're going to go again to the book of Tehillim, or Psalms, chapter 89, verse 37. Quote, "Like the moon, it is established forever, and the witness in the heaven is steadfast. Selah." Let's ponder on that. Let's think about that. Why? So how does a partial lunar eclipse, let alone a full blood red moon, share with us that we can indeed track the starting point, just like MoonCalc does, a starting point when the moon becomes fully restored at 100% illumination, and then ends, because it just doesn't happen for a small portion of time. And how can the moon rise the night before New Moon Day and the moon set the day of New Moon Day unite us as well? So we're going to go through that now. One thing on the MoonCalc you should realize on this visual: the moon set time is for the New Moon Day, the first day of the 8th month, which is the Pagan Day of Friday, November 19th. But this moonrise represents that same day. So I don't have the moonrise on here from the night previous. So here's what I did. I put in the readings. So everyone on Earth, the moon the night before New Moon Day, rose, moonrise, from a 63-degree mark to a 73-degree mark northeast. Now think about the 10 degrees in declination on a compass if you're trying to figure out true north and how that works. There are reasons why we see that 10-degree variation, and you can confirm it out in creation with a compass, with magnetic north and true north. So that takes a little practice. It's not hard to do, but if you're never been introduced to that, here you go. And as we can see, the night before New Moon Day, it went from here all over Earth. And then by the time it set on New Moon Day, again had a 10-degree variation for everyone on Earth from 292 degrees to 302. What does that look like on a compass? So again, on a compass, it's going to show 0 degrees. On Stellarium, that was 180. They moved it upside down. So these are the things you learn about compasses and how programs that forecast like Stellarium and mooncalc.org. You got to understand the differences on how the designers created these things. So this is a great example. But bottom line is this. The takeaway is this. The moon on any specific month does not rise every day in the same location, and it doesn't set in the same location. The same applies for each and every month. It's got its own patterns, which is another witness that takes time to learn. But it's a wonderful witness. It's awesome. I'm awestruck to see how these things unite us. But that's how it looks on this visual. So what I did is I took the worksheets, put them here, and this is my hometown, and the moon did indeed rise in that bucket the night before and did set, as you can see right here, in that range. So the other thing is that we do know from the blood red moon partial eclipse that the moon on the partial eclipse, the red part, the actual color, was going to be for 6 hours and 1 minute and 31 seconds. So if any of you out there are being told that the moon doesn't have a starting point of becoming full and then an end point, and in this case, this month for 11 hours, then just point them to these simple, basic astronomical facts. We know how this works, and we know the time it's going to begin. Partial begins at 2:18 and 42 seconds a.m. The maximum that it goes blood red for a partial eclipse is at that time, 4:02 and 55 seconds a.m. And then the partial ends at that time. So again, this is basic. And why further we believe they put the light on a lampstand so that it shines to all those in the house. So that's my location. And this is why on an eclipse map we can see this very easily, just like mooncalc.org shows it. So when you start learning how to use these programs in full and then go outside and test and prove it for yourself with a camera, taking photographs and film footage, it becomes extremely exciting. You feel like a little kid in a sandbox. Our Father is good to his children. His kindness is indeed everlasting. Here we are now in Jerusalem. Same thing. It rose in that direction, just like my hometown, and it set in the same direction. And the moon was 100%, and they know in Jerusalem that there wasn't going to be a sighting of the partial lunar eclipse. If we go to Perth, Western Australia, it rose the night before in the same location like it did everywhere, and it set like it set everywhere. And for this location, it has an actual time period for the lunar eclipse, the partial lunar eclipse. Again, we can measure all of this, and I'll explain why in a minute. Going into Anaheim, California, rose the night before like it did everywhere on Earth, set like it did everywhere on Earth. And again, the percent illumination at its highest, meeting the sun at the dawn at 100% and meeting the sun at sunrise at 100%, 2.6 degrees above the horizon. So again, very easy to do, and because we can measure percent illumination to 2 points of a degree, 99.99, they can do this with a partial lunar eclipse, as you can see here. Stop the video to see this data if you wish. Here we are in Hawaii. Same thing. Rose the night before in the same spot, set in the same spot, like it did everywhere on Earth. And as you can see, greeted the sun at sunrise and as well at the dawn at its highest percent illumination. Again, they are part of the path of this partial lunar eclipse to the second, and they know the total time. 6 hours, 1 minute, and 31 seconds. Just like they know the full time period of a fully restored 100% full moon. Dallas, Texas, same thing. Rose in the same location it did everywhere on Earth, and will set on New Moon Day in the same place everywhere on Earth. And again, greeted the sun at sunrise, just about 2 degrees above the horizon, 18 degrees at the dawn, at fully restored, just like the information that they captured on the partial lunar eclipse. 6 hours, 1 minute, and 31 seconds. So this is not difficult in this day and age to do, and it wasn't difficult in the past if you know how to do it, and that's coming. Here we are now in Rio de Janeiro. Same thing. Rose the night before in the same location everywhere on Earth. Set in the same location everywhere on Earth. And again, in this case, at the dawn, it was 100% illuminated. Greeted the sun 5 degrees above plus. It was 100% illuminated at the sunrise, but it was minus 12.37 below the sunrise. So it didn't greet the sun. But it was at its highest point at midnight, second and third watch, all the way to the dawn. It was a beacon for everyone to see. The next day, it still doesn't greet the sun. It's minus 3.61. So if some people are saying, oh, New Moon Day can be the next day, well, that throws that theory out the door, because it only greets the sun not on the 20th, but on the 21st. So keep your head up on this one witness of the moon greeting the sun at sunrise. It's a great witness, but 2 to 3 times a year it doesn't serve as well as these other witnesses. That's why we look at all the witnesses. And again, there is the path of the partial lunar eclipse for 2 hours and 44 seconds. Yes, they know the total time for a full moon illumination, 100%, don't they? Here we are in Cape Town, South Africa. Rose in the same location, set in the same location, just like it did all over Earth. And it was at its highest illumination, and it did meet and greet the sun at the dawn. And it will if you're on a little higher plane than what the stellarium or mooncalc.org is showing. If you're on a higher mountain, you're going to see it greet. This is nothing. It's minus 0.44. You will still see it, as we talked about. And again, Cape Town will not be in the path of the partial lunar eclipse. So they know the position, they know the percent, and so forth, even for a blood red moon, even though it's partial. Here we are in Mumbai. And again, highest illumination at the dawn, it meets it at 13 degrees plus above, 99.9. But again, it doesn't greet the sun at sunrise. Big deal. The witnesses of the moonrise the night before and the moonset, let alone all the other witnesses, are totally locked and loaded. Mooncalc shows 99.9. So the next day it drops, it's starting to wane. So yes, even in Mumbai, India, on the Pagan Day of Friday, November 19th, HalaluYAH, it's New Moon Day, the first day of the 8th month. And again, Mumbai is not in the pathway of the partial lunar eclipse. So, how do we learn this? Well, we have to thank all of the team members at QuickPhase Pro, because they connected us with astronomers that do the algorithms. So they're teaching us how the ancients actually measured this as well, and how today it's easier because of computer technology. Remember, back in the ancient times, it was basically ink and paper that they wrote these observations down. And out of all that sample over and over again, they learnt the movements in percent illumination, let alone direction with position from moonset, from moonrise the night before to moonset, let alone all the other witnesses that we shared, second and third watch and the dawn, etc. So a big thank you to the QuickPhase Pro team. We look forward to further dialogue, and thank you for those connections with the astronomers that follow these programs and do a great job. So again, I can't say thank you enough. All the best to you folks. You've been nothing but spectacular. So there you have it. Those are the two steadfast witnesses, and with a lunar partial eclipse, how this proves that you can even do the time periods for a full restored 100% illumination from its start to finish. And in this case, this month, everybody gets equal light, 11 hours and 16 minutes. Selah for the steadfast witness. And as you can see, moonrise and moonsets the same all over Earth for this sample. And again, we have some months we go to 20 locations spread out all over Earth. This is the power of using all of the witnesses of light, because they unite us. So again, the moon greeting the sun at sunset, great witness, but as you can see, it's not consistent month after month, 2 or 3 times a year. The moon rules the night with an annual set of scriptural stars for the new moon days. Yes, we're all aligned. The moon the highest at the second and third watch towards the midnight time period. Yes, HalaluYAH, we're all on the same page. The moon at the dawn with the fixed pattern of stars all over Earth. Yes, we're all on the same page. The moon greeting the sun at sunrise. Not so good for this particular month, but still a valuable witness to watch. And again, 2 to 3 times a year, it doesn't serve us all over Earth. The final 2 steadfast witnesses that we just reviewed, we're all on the same page. So, this is how we did the very same thing in the 7th month, and why we were so comfortable with it, and why it proves the same method that we used for the 8th month proved that Yom Teruah, the first day of the 7th month, was indeed on the pagan day of Wednesday, October 20th. It's that simple. But if you're just looking at this, you're going to scramble. And many people were challenged with that. Again, no big deal. We don't use the celestial clock and calendar of YaHUaH as a weapon. We're not looking to be the only right ones. We're not concerned about who is right. We are concerned with what is right. And thus why we use all the witnesses of light. The people that argue this are only using a small portion. They're not using the full part. And we get that. They're going to come to those conclusions that divide people and not put us all on the same page together, that only our Father of Lights, YaHUaH himself, the only self-existent one, can actually do. So again, all of this is available to each and every one of you. And you can compare this from month to month. This bigger view, thinking bigger, if you will, because his witnesses are wonders. And this is why our beings observe them. And that's why we go out in the 4 night watches with our eyes to see this. So this sample is the 8th month, which is very much the same, if not the same as the 7th month. And as you can see, the witness of the moon greeting the sun at sunrise was problematic, just like it was at sunset. So, but all the other witnesses combined put us on the same page. All of this is at your disposal at any given time. Just reach out to us in the chat section of YouTube, and or email us at family1@rogers.com. Again, it's basic. 1 witness shall not rise against a man concerning any iniquity or any sin that he commits. By the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, the matter shall be established. So, the people that are truly trying to make it a small portion at the end of the 4th watch at sunrise, we're not concerned. You'll come to these witnesses in time. It's just a matter of time. So again, very simple to explain, very simple to show, because we are looking to learn how to understand the laws of the heavens that do indeed set their rule over the earth. If this is what interests you, then please take the time to join one of the workshops and or fill out the templates on your own. You'll be glad that you did. So there's something else about the 8th month that is quite alarming. And today you got a lot of people saying, oh no, forget about it. It doesn't matter which month you celebrate any of the feasts, or if you get the new moon day wrong. Well, take a look at Jeroboam. He decided in the 8th month to have a festival that was scheduled for a proper particular month, in the 7th month to be exact. And he devised in his own heart to do that. It had nothing to do with the witnesses of light. He ignored them all. Not only did he ignore all of the witnesses, he came up with a new plan for himself. So some of you out there are seeing this already, especially with these new second Passover theories. Well, this is a warning. Don't act like Jeroboam. The warning's not from me, it's scriptural. So again, don't get presumptuous. It's very dangerous. Please learn the sin of presumption and what it causes. It's great to theorize. We don't tell anyone to stop that. But don't go to the point where you get into trouble like YaHUaH did. Please stop the visual and really read this, let alone the whole chapter behind here, because it's a massive mistake where discernment wasn't, scriptural discernment with 3 witnesses or more to establish a matter was not fully in play. So I thought I'd include this in this scriptural study. So finally, again, use all the witnesses. What does it hurt? If you're the one out there trying to tell people not to look at all the witnesses, think about that for a moment. Do you really want to be in that camp? I don't, but I'm not important. So again, I don't use this as a weapon. My job, with many other Bereans, is to explore this further and to connect month after month all over Earth. As Bereans do, we assemble and we do this and we offer each other these spiritual offerings of light to learn further. We're not teachers. We're still learning. And HalaluYAH, the process is just loving. It's spiritually rich in so many ways. So have you ever heard the saying, if you don't do the works, you don't get the perks? I used to be told that by many bosses over the years, and it reminds me of the passages of Jacob, or James chapter 2, verse 17 through 18, and verses 20 through 22. So also belief, if it does not have works, is in itself dead. But someone might say, you have belief and I have works. Show me your beliefs without your works, and I shall show you my belief by my works. So we do as much of the work that we're personally aware of at this time. We don't reduce it. We don't add or take away like some do. So this is what reminds us of this. And then it goes on to say, but do you wish to know, O foolish man, that the belief without the works is dead? Was not Abraham our father declared right by works when he offered Yitzchak his son on the altar? Do you see that the belief was working with his works, and by the works the belief was perfected? So we're getting really good at this. Can we say we have perfected it yet? No, not by far. But we're moving towards that direction. If you're looking at a small portion of the total at the end of the 4th watch, or a small portion at the start of the 1st watch, think about that for a moment. How do you perfect the works with that? You can't. So again, prove all things. That increases the belief, the confidence, and the expectation. And this is what being a Berean is all about, and why I'm so I think the word's enamored and impressed that folks are helping me and helping each other to make sure our lamps are full of oil. So what does that mean as it relates to the celestial clock and calendar of YaHUaH? Well, thanks to Travis, just a few days ago, he reminded me of the scriptural events of the ladies, I'll call them, that had the full oil or the full light in their lamps to guide them. And they were the wise ones saying to the ones that were foolish, no, indeed, there would not be enough for us, and you instead go to those who sell and buy for yourselves. So who are they talking to? The foolish ones that were not getting the full light. They were not filling their lamps up with all of the oil of light they could, and their lamps were going out. And the ones that had the full light in all the lamps had great guidance and a great path. So to see that example applied to this, I've heard it before, but the way this one individual, fellow Berean study buddy stated it, it reminded me of this. It made my heart leap for joy, and I thought I would share this in this clip as well here today, once again. We have no delusions that none of us on this YouTube channel are going to restore all things. We're working out our own deliverance in fear and trembling. We cannot do that for another individual. We cannot unite all of the Bereans under this information right here and now. We don't have that capability. But the Messiah, YaHUaH, does. And he will restore all of these things in due process, as instructed by his Father, YaHUaH, the Father of lights. For now, all we're going to do is continue to let our hearts leap for joy and shout hallelujah that we get the opportunity to further study out that light that is on a lampstand to shine to all those in the house. That's what we're going to continue to do, and we're going to be joyful about it. If some people want to be crabby and relentless in regards to telling us not to look at all the witnesses of light, we are going to rejoice in that, because it's just like the story when the apostles were told, don't share the name, don't mention the name which is above all names. They left that council rejoicing for suffering shame in sharing the name which is above all names. So we have no problems whatsoever for those folks that are trying to hide all of the witnesses of light. We are shouting for joy that we get this opportunity, privilege, and baruch, if you will, here and now. So please understand, we're not going to use this as a weapon, but we are going to shout for joy for these witnesses of light. They're wonderful. Selah. So, that is the scriptural and astronomical study in these 4 categories. There is far more to this, believe it or not, and we cover that in the scriptural workshops with the celestial clock and calendar of YaHUaH. So again, we continue to call upon the name that these scriptural study videos provide value to you and your loved ones. Until next time, may the Messiah YaHUshua be in everything we all say and do. Have a wonderful first day of the 8th month, yes, New Moon Day. All the best to you and your loved ones, everyone. Have a YaHUaH New Moon Day.